what's up guys, Quinn here. Welcome back to another video. For today's video, we're going to be showing you each and every one of our aquariums, starting in my classroom, and then we'll head to my apartment in the city of Chicago, and then I'm going to kick it over to my brother Troy in his basement fish room, and then he is going to kick it over to our other brother Alec in his basement fish room.
And go back this way, go over here, click and go that way.
So we're really excited to show you all of our aquariums and all the updates that we've done since we've last seen you. But before we get into all that, you know the drill. Let's hit that subscribe button and let's dive right in. Alright guys, so here is my classroom fish room. So I have 4 tanks currently set up, starting with the big tank. It's the 110 gallon Central and South American cichlid tank. It's custom made by Custom Aquariums. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Then we have the repurposed 75 gallon with new fish in there that you guys have not seen yet. We will go over what is in that tank. Then we got the 55 gallon with Felix the flowerhorn. It's been a little while since you guys have seen her. She has gained a lot of mass. And then we have the 20 long, and it is currently actually empty. It was a quarantine tank and a temporary holding tank for the Sveni that I had to rehome, but it is currently not filled as I am on summer break, and I will be filling it definitely whenever school starts back up again. So it is a challenge to keep these tanks up and running over summer break. Luckily, I am here a lot of the time because I coach football and track at the school, so we have summer camps throughout most of the summer. So I'm still able to do the weekly water changes and feed them on most days, but I do have some auto feeders set up on them just in case. And I do want the fish to grow as much as possible, especially in the 75 gallon here. So the auto feeder is clutch for that. All right, so let's go into the 110 gallon here. So this tank is made by Custom Aquariums in Wisconsin. It is a custom 110 gallon tank. It is 5 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. So it is the largest tank that can fit on my back lab table here. So there is not really a great option for a 5-foot tank that is not custom. So luckily Custom Aquariums were nice enough to build me this tank, so I can't thank them enough for this. This is probably my favorite tank that I own. Front and center right here is the famous Joker, the Green Terror.
Hi.
He has grown beautifully in this tank. His nuchal hump has like doubled in size. This tank has only been going for about 3 months, I would say. But the fish are already growing really, really well. Love the color of this guy. Here's the convict cichlid. I've had this gal for about 3 years now. She's done very well in this tank. I would say she's actually probably the most aggressive in this tank, even though she's about half the size of the Green Terror and the Jack Dempsey. Let's see if we can find the Jack Dempsey. He's not used to seeing me over summer, so he's a little timid. He's back there. We'll throw some food in the tank and see if he comes out for us. There he is. He can be a little shy at times. So for those of you that have not been following along, I inherited him from a teacher that had passed away. He was in terrible conditions, and he has really flourished in the variety of tanks that he has been in my classroom, but definitely think he's in the best spot now. So these 3 fish actually get along really well. Like I said, the convict is probably the most aggressive, but it's good that the biggest 2 fish are kind of peaceful giants. When I say giants, I would still say the Joker here is not fully grown. Still kind of his teenage years, I would say. Jack, I think, is totally done growing because I know that he's at least 4 to 5 years old. All right, so moving on now to the 75 gallon tank. So actually the 3 fish that were highlighted in my 110 gallon were in this tank for about 2 years with a similar scape. I just took out some of the plants to add to the 110 gallon. But obviously now, as you can see, we have a brand new stocking in this tank that we have not gone over yet on this channel. All right, so we do have 6 new fish, all perfectly lined up in the shot here. So we have 4 silver dollars. These are about 2 inches long. We have a mouth brooding Severum. See, it's got some awesome stripes, and I love that red eye. His name is Cyclops, as my students like to call him. And then we have a beautiful Firemouth here. So I got the Severum and Firemouth from Imperial Tropicals. Got them shipped to the school. And they've done absolutely phenomenal in this tank. More or less leave the silver dollars alone. They're kind of all up in the top half of the tank. The Severum likes to hide under this log, and the Firemouth is kind of all over the place. So long term, once I get these guys big enough, is they will eventually, hopefully, go in the 110 gallon. Obviously, anytime with these aggressive cichlids, you never know if it's actually going to work out. So I will always have a backup plan like this tank to put them back in if it ultimately does not work. All right, moving on now to the 55 gallon, my girl Felix. So she has grown quite a bit. She is what we think a short-bodied flower horn. She obviously does not look like some of the huge-headed flower horns that you've seen on the internet, but you know what? That's okay, because she is definitely the crowd favorite in my classroom. She is totally a classroom pet. She has a ton of personality. I think she's giving me the silent treatment right now because I have not been with her over summer break, but I'm sure she'll get over it. Still a pretty cool looking fish, and like I said, my student's favorite. You might ask, why is a girl named Felix? Well, I let my students name her before we knew she was a female. She ended up laying eggs and made it pretty obvious that she was a female. One funny part with Felix, I do have an auto feeder for her, and as you can see, I kind of had to rig the auto feeder with duct tape, because one thing that Felix will do is where the food will come out, she will actually slam up into the lid to try to get some more food out, and by doing that, she'll knock over the auto feeder and I'll have food everywhere the next day I come in. So she definitely loves her food. She's just a cool fish. All right, and last and certainly least is the 20 gallon here. It has seen definitely better days. I'm letting the filter still run on it, and I'm still putting some ammonia drops in there just to keep the cycle going for the bacteria in the filter. I will be repurposing this tank when school starts back up in a month. So stay tuned for that. So that is the classroom tour at this moment. I'm looking forward to adding on this year. I've added at least one tank every school year so far. So I'm approaching my 4th school year and can't wait to see how it shapes up for this upcoming year. All right, let's head to my apartment and see what I got working there. All right, guys, so we are now in my apartment in the city. I got the 60 gallon planted tank. And then I have the 20 gallon water box cube. Got the 2 clowns in here. One's a gladiator and another one is an ice mocha. They're doing really well. I have a few pieces of coral in here. You got the hammer coral right here. And you got an acan there, and then a frog spawn here. So overall, this tank is doing okay, I would say. I'm not gonna lie, for a pretty good stretch there in the spring when I was coaching 2 sports at once, the tank kind of got neglected, so coral is not growing as well as I hoped, but I will be moving in 2 weeks, so after I move and reset this tank up, hoping to kind of redesign the scape, get some more coral, and reestablish what we have. The clownfish are definitely very personable. I love it sitting at my desk and working, and they'll come up right up to the tank. The gladiator is pretty aggressive. He will bite my hand anytime I put it in the tank, which is quite annoying, but undoubtedly beautiful. So moving on to the 60 gallon planted tank. I closed the blinds to reduce the glare there. So I'm not gonna lie, this tank is not looking too great right now. You can see the carpeting plant is pretty high. I even got some algae that I need to clean up off the glass. And then back here, the Rotala indica is just totally overgrown. I have not trimmed this in a long time. The reason for this is, like I said, I am moving in 2 weeks, and I'm actually gonna move this tank to my classroom. I think it'll just be a lot better there. I'll be able to do a lot more maintenance. So this tank should get a pretty good overhaul. In a few weeks, we'll be making a video off that. So definitely stay tuned. But overall, the fish are still doing pretty good. You got the neons in here. You got the Odessa barbs. Then you got the Harlequin Rasboras. This is all the way back from Troy's original 75 gallon. These things are pretty old now, but they're still doing pretty good. Alright guys, so those are all my tanks. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, let's kick it over to Troy.
Hey guys, Troy here, and we're down in my basement where I have 5 different aquariums set up, and I also have a koi pond in my backyard. I actually have quite a bit of updates in my tanks, including new fish, and we're going to walk through all of that today. Let's start here with my 180 gallon aquarium. So here's the 180 gallon South American cichlid tank. This tank has been running for a little over a year, and there haven't been a ton of changes in the last few months. All these guys have just been growing and living together, working well. I'm really happy with the tank and the tank setup. It really is my dream tank. I have 3 Severums, starting with Big Red. I have a turquoise Severum and a red shoulder Severum. Then I have an electric blue Acara that is about 2.5, maybe 3 years old now. Looking great. And then I have Nessie, my Oscar, who is just over a year old himself. And then my red shoulder Severum, closing in on about 2 years old as well, and getting some blue in the face. And then my Geophagus Tapaho is one of my favorite all-time cichlids. They just look amazing with the red head and blue on their bodies. I have a Geophagus steindachneri. And then of course I have Bigfoot here, my chocolate cichlid. And then you can't forget my true parrot cichlid named Blue. He's the biggest fish in the tank currently at about 10 inches long. Everyone's doing really well. There's not much aggression in this tank. Even during feeding, they just eat a lot and they don't really mind each other. So it's overall just a really peaceful tank for a cichlid tank, and I really love it. Next up is the 48 gallon Fiji Cube saltwater reef tank. I have a 6-line wrasse swimming around there. I have a couple cardinalfish, and then I also have a pair of clowns. The biggest update here is I have already gotten coral. I haven't had an updated video on this just because I've been busy, but I do have a couple zoas on this rock here, and then this awesome looking Duncan. It's already opening up and growing, looks great. And then I'm also experimenting a little bit with some green star polyps, and I kind of want it to grow up the back and kind of be a background of just green, but we'll see how that goes. Excited to finally have coral. Next up is my desktop aquarium. This is a Waterbox Cube 10. It was a planted tank that saw better days. Some of the plants were fading away and I had a lot of algae, so I did a rescape of this tank. It has an apistogramma in here, along with a couple Otocinclus catfish. Here's the tank before where it was just covered in algae, so I deep cleaned it and rescaped the tank some just to do something different. I put a little sand in the front and a few different rocks. I think it looks pretty good now. My apistogramma is great, will feed out of my fingers, and just is always fun to sit next to while I'm working. So next up are the 2 tanks in my storage room, which I'm starting to convert into a fish room. So there will be a lot of updates coming soon. So first thing you'll notice is all the new fish in this tank, and I'll explain what I have here and why. So first off, I have my 3 original Geophagus sveni. So I added 2 more to the group just because I love these fish, and I have plans for a tank where I have Geophagus sveni, a bunch of electric blue Acara, and then 1 big Severum. You'll also notice here that I have 2 red spot gold Severums. The plan is to keep one of these for myself, and the other I'm holding for the head coach of the Chicago Bulls, Billy Donovan. If you didn't see that video, the setup and the tank install, I'll leave that in the upper right hand corner. But the Severum will be going to him, along with one of the electric blue Acaras I have here. I had my original big electric blue Acara, and then 4 really small electric blues that came with this new group. And then I also have my macaw cichlid in this tank, along with the rainbow cichlid. The rainbow cichlid is also going to go to Coach Donovan, so all of that will be coming up in a future video that we can't wait to show. So next up is the 33-gallon bow front Fluval Flex. This tank is a shell dweller community of Neolamprologus multifasciatus, and it is just covered in babies. I probably have about 50 baby fish here, a couple different generations, and as you'll see, they completely destroyed the scape of this tank as expected, and there's quite a bit of algae growth. I'm really just letting this tank run and trying not to disturb the babies as they tend to get stressed out during water changes and maintenance. So I'm just kind of letting this go for now. As they grow up, I'm going to scrub the algae off a little bit more and make it a little more aesthetically pleasing. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is my koi pond in my backyard. You might notice that I have more koi. I have 7 total now. I did have an issue with a blue heron. I looked out my back window and saw a 4-foot tall blue heron standing next to my pond trying to eat my koi. Freaked me out, and now I have a net covering the pond just to make sure the koi are safe. I really love the pond. It's doing really well. The fish are pretty big now, about a foot long, and really enjoy this on my back porch. Okay, so that does it for all of my setups. Now I'm going to pass it over to my brother Alec.
Hey guys, Alec here. I'm down here in my basement fish room where I have 4 different fish tanks. I also have 2 fish tanks upstairs in my 2 sons' bedrooms. So I'm just gonna walk you through all 6 fish tanks and show you what I got. First, I'm going to turn the lights off so there's no glare, and we'll start here with my 125-gallon Predator hat tank. All right guys, first of all, here is the complete setup, the whole basement, all 4 fish tanks, how I got it all laid out. We're gonna start out here with the 125-gallon Predator hat tank. All haps from Lake Malawi. Everybody's doing great, a lot of growth, a lot of color coming in on this tank. I've had it for about a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer. Now everybody's from about 4 to 9 inches. 9-inch Bucochromis rhodesii yellow there is the biggest. But the tank hierarchy has been established, everybody sticks to it, and not a lot of aggression going on. There's about 12 or 13 haps in here, and everybody's doing great, coloring up a lot. One exciting development that I'm happy to see is my living stone eye is starting to get his color back after kind of falling back in the pecking order a little bit. The Rostratus is starting to color up a lot. He is terrible to film because he just darts back and forth like crazy, especially when I haven't fed him yet, like I haven't tonight. But more excitingly, I think with this tank is there are some upgrades on the horizon. I am going to get a custom aquarium from Custom Aquariums, who we've worked with before. I plan on creating a custom design that fits perfectly in here to give these guys a little bit more space, and I'm gonna upgrade the lighting and the background and the decor, the whole works. My biggest complaint about this tank really is the height of it. I'm kind of tall and the tank's pretty short, so gotta kind of be sitting down or crouching down to really get a good look at these guys. But just an awesome tank and everybody's doing great. So let's move on to tank number 2. This is the second oldest tank in this basement fish room, which is actually just about a year or just a little bit longer old. And it is a Caradina shrimp tank.
I know everything there is to know about the shrimping business.
Got a bunch of crystal reds in here. They've really developed a colony and it is just awesome. I got like 25 babies and about 15 adults in here from like 3 different generations. And this is a great picture of it right here. As you see, babies, some adolescents, and some bigger ones. And I think some of these babies are gonna come out pretty high grade. I can't wait to see it.
Pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp.
And everybody's just doing fantastic. This is my first ever shrimp tank, so pretty satisfied with it so far. I still have a couple pregnant fish. I think there's maybe one that's buried right there and a couple in the back. So these babies keep on coming. I run this thing at about a TDS of about 150 with RODI water, and it's going great. So moving on to the next tank. Right over here is another shrimp tank, another 10-gallon water box.
with the Asta 20 light. I really like that light. Gives off a great shimmer. This one is Taiwan bees, all King Kongs and blue bolts.
Shrimp stew, shrimp salad, shrimp and potatoes.
Escaped with an Amazon sword in the back there with dragonstone. And this one just had their first couple sets of babies, and they're really tiny, and they like to hide back here in the dragonstone and in the Sawasser tang. But these guys are just awesome. They're actually not that hard to keep like some people think. I do have to do RODI water with both of my shrimp tanks, and this one does a little smaller or a little less TDS, which is about 100 to 120. But that just means I just have to add less minerals than I do the crystal red tank. So really, actually, this tank is easier than the crystal red because I got to add more minerals to the crystal red tank. So these guys are doing great. Got about 15 adults, batch of babies. The most I've seen at one time is about 7, but I'm sure there's plenty more in the rockwork and the Sawasser tank. So this tank, once again, doing great. Love it.
Shrimp sandwich. That's about it.
Moving on to the last of the 4 tanks in here. My only saltwater tank, the 20-gallon Fiji Cube Peninsula tank. It's an all-in-one. So we've got the filtration in the back, got the aqua illumination, AI Prime. Unfortunately, I do not have any livestock in here yet, but it is coming very, very soon. I've just been really busy this summer and haven't really had time to get any fish in there yet, but I am going to get some this week, and I just can't wait. Let's head upstairs. All right, now we are in my son Kendrick's room, where he has a 7-gallon Imaginarium all-in-one aquarium. He has a couple glowfish left over from his previous tank. If I can find, here's his peacock gudgeon he likes to hide. And my son's favorite, I think he has it in here, is 3 Amano shrimp, which are really cool. We don't really have to feed them anything special, and it's really fun when they come out. My son loves it. So all in all, pretty good tank. Here we are in my son Axel's room, where he has a 2.6-gallon Fluval Spec aquarium with 1 betta fish in it. His name is Leo. He's got that nice blue coloring with some red as well. He's in there solo. Pretty barren landscape right now. Plan on adding some plants and redoing things a little bit, get a different substrate in there. He's doing great. My son likes to feed him. He's got a lot of personality, and it's a good starter aquarium for a 3-year-old. All right, guys, so that'll do it for today's video. That is all of our fish tanks. Stay tuned for more upgrades and updates and even more fish tanks possibly in the future. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already for that content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.